Today we are ranking the entire Scream franchise, so let's go. Greetings everyone, my name is Nightshade, this is The Night Shift, a home for all things spooky, and today we're going to be ranking the entire Scream franchise. This is the second time that I'm filming this because the first time was completely unusable. Well, I guess technically this is the third time because I've already ranked the Scream franchise on this channel before. However, Scream 6 was not included in that list. And since then, a few of my opinions have changed on other films, so it's time to get it a little bit more up to date. Now, before we get into ranking the franchise, I just need it to be said that I don't think that there is a bad Scream movie in the bunch. I enjoy all of these movies. So, in this instance, we are ranking things from least best to best. That make any sense? I don't know. And also, before we get into this, I just want you guys to understand that these are just my personal opinions, my personal preferences, based on my flavor of horror. And if your list doesn't look like my list, then good. That's a good thing. You know, variety is the spice of life. This is all subjective, and there are no right or wrong answers in a personal preference listing. So with all of that being said, let's go ahead and get into the ranking. In last place for me personally, it's going to have to be Scream 3. Now, I gotta say that I am a fan of this movie whenever I'm watching it isolated from the rest of the franchise. In fact, this is one of the more fun movies in the franchise. However, watching it all together, it really feels out of place. Now, over the years, this film has gotten its own cult fan base, and a lot of people put this at their number one. I do believe KP the Slasher on my subscribers list actually ranked this as their number one, if not a very close second or something like that. And there's a lot more people that put this movie on the tops of their list as their number one favorite Scream film, and I respect that. However, for my personal preferences, I usually only watch this movie whenever I'm binging out the entire franchise. That's just how I watch movies. And for me personally, it just feels like one of the weaker ones on the list. Now, even though we do have a full review on the channel, I'm just going to go ahead and get into real quick why this is low on my list. There's not a whole lot of gore. There's not a whole lot of good creative kills. Those got neutered because of the events that happened in Columbine, and two little assholes just kind of ruined a good time for the rest of us. I'm also not a huge fan of the Roman Bridger long lost brother twist. It just feels very soap opera to me. But to give it its positives, it's a fun movie. There's a lot of camp and a lot of humor to be had in this film. I respect the fact that there's only one killer rather than two, like we've seen in pretty much all the rest of these movies. This is the only time that we got a solo killer, and I respect that for what it is. So it's a lot of fun on its own, but watching it with the rest of the franchise, it just really sticks out like a sore thumb to me, and it's not going to go farther than last place for me. I do apologize. I knew a lot of people love this movie, but I'm just not the biggest proponent for this film. So up next at number 5 is going to be Scream 6. Now, this was almost in dead last. However, the reason it's not is because what this movie does right, it does ultra right. But what it does wrong, there's a lot. There's a lot of good that comes from Scream 6. What it does right, it does superb. We get good kills, we get good action sequences, we get good chase sequences, we get a lot of good out of this movie. That being said, the entire third act kind of shits on the rest of the film and really just knocks it so far down for me that it's not even funny. Like, whenever I saw this in the theaters, this was definitely on its way to being my second favorite Scream film in the franchise because it was doing so much right. Like, it was doing all these good things. The mask looks cool. The chase sequences are great. The kills are awesome. The characters are pretty cool. But that third act, though, oh my God. Like, honestly, that ending feels kind of rushed because it leaves me with more questions than it gives me answers. Like, I kind of want to know how Richie's dad faked his way into the New York Police Department. That's a big one for me. Like, how does that happen? Like, the fake out Quinn death reveal as well, absolutely stupid. Like, there is no way that you can apply a prosthetic like that quick and swap out dead bodies as well. Like, that's not a thing. And a lot of these films are based in realism, and that is just really, fast and furious levels of stupid. And Ethan, who was one of my favorite characters up to this point, After it was revealed that he was a killer, he just became super annoying. Really annoying, and spoiler alert for Friday's video, he's very low on my list of the Ghostface killer ranking. So that'll be on Friday. See you there. But yeah, that whole third act just rubbed me the wrong way. It's really one of the worst reveals in the entire franchise, if not the worst reveal in the franchise. And the only thing saving this movie from dead last is the fact that the first two acts were absolutely phenomenal. I had a great time in the theater watching that part, and I will still watch this movie up until the killer's reveal, and then I shut it off and I'm cool with not watching the back half ever again.
And that's all I have to say about that.
So up next in fourth place is Scream 2. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be upset about that. This is a lot of people's second favorite Scream film since the first, and I actually know a couple people that this is their favorite Scream film of all time. However, this is my reasoning for it being so low on the totem pole. So after the success of Scream, they knew obviously a sequel was definitely going to be in order. Now, Kevin Williamson, knowing that this movie was going to be good and knowing that horror movies in and of themselves, are a breeding ground for sequels, he had already written a script and a treatment for the next film, so they went ahead and rushed into production to get this film out. That being said, there was a script leak that kind of ruined the ending of the film. And because of that, they had to rush some rewrites and do some reshoots and really just kind of reorganize the entire film and start from scratch. And unfortunately for me, the movie suffers because of it. Like, the kills in this were lackluster, and that's because you can't really craft a good kill whenever you're on the fly like they were. Like in the first Scream film, Wes had time to cook and craft up some really cool, really fun kills. However, they did not have time in this film to do that type of craftsmanship on any of the kills in this. So the kills really suffer. Not that the kills are like the biggest thing in a slasher, but they're pretty big for me. Also, I gotta say that this movie just feels long. It feels like it drags out a little bit longer than it should. Now, I don't know if they needed to pad out the runtime because, again, they had to rewrite a bunch of stuff. I don't know if that was meant to be filler, but there's some scenes that go on too long. Like that cafeteria scene doesn't need to be in this movie at all, but it's there, and I don't know if that's because they really had to film something to make it a full-length movie. The positives that I will give it is a very nostalgic movie for me. It's definitely one of my favorite Ghostface masks in the franchise. I definitely love the Gen 2. I think it looks superb in this film. Even though it really does suck that Randy died in this film, it still gave a sense of danger and a sense that anybody in this film could get offed at any time for any reason. Scream 2 felt like it had stakes, and that's more than I can say about other sequels in the franchise. So up next we have third place, which is, for me, Scream 5. So in my last ranking, I had Scream 5 as my number 2 favorite film in the franchise, and that changed during my last viewing experience. Now, there's a lot about this movie that I do absolutely love, but during my last viewing for the review series, I've fallen out of love with a few things in this film, which let's go ahead and talk about right now. I don't enjoy the Ghost Billy stuff. I think that's dumb, and if you were to take those scenes out, which I have edited out before and watched the movie, and it really has zero bearing on anything in the film. It impacts not really much of anything. Also, there's not a whole lot of suspense in this film. A lot of it's very predictable. That's another thing that I gave criticism to in my review on the channel, and I just want to reiterate it here, is that this movie is very predictable. Like, if I know exactly who the killers are halfway through the movie, you got a problem. That's like part of the fun of a Scream film, is just not knowing who the killers are. And in this movie, I guessed them pretty easily. But I do love the cast of this movie. I do like the story of this movie. I also very much love the Ghostface in this movie. I like one of the two Ghostface reveals. I'm not a big Amber fan. Just spoiler alert. I also like that there are two distinct killers in this film. Like, each Ghostface has its own personality, where Amber is very wild and very hectic with the way that she kills people. Richie is pretty much the exact opposite of that. He's cool, calm, collected, and very precise with where he stabs and how he kills. And this movie actually had the balls to kill a legacy character, which can't be said for many other films. Now, I know there's a lot of people people that absolutely hate this film, but it's one of my favorites. And I foresee it being one of my favorites for a very long time. I don't understand the hate, but you know, it is what it is. So up next, in second place, we have Scream 4. Now, Scream 4 was much lower on my list last time. However, this past rewatch, it really stood out to me as being a very fun movie. Now, with the exception of them playing it a little too safe with the legacy characters not dying, as well as that ungodly filter that they put on the film, the rest of this movie's great. With the exception of Trevor, I love every single character in this movie. I love all the ghost faces in this movie. I do love the kills in this movie, the brutality of the ghost face in this movie. Pretty much everything about this movie I love and have zero animosity towards. It's a lot better than I remembered it being, and on this last viewing, I fell back in love with this film. Like, if you look at my review, I had mostly positive things to say about this, other than, you know, the fact that it was a little too safe and that weird filter that they put on it. Other than that, I love this movie. This is my second favorite Scream film of all time. And a lot of people have been putting their rankings underneath my movie reviews, which, you know, keep them coming. And on a lot of people's rankings, this ended up being in last place for a lot of people. But, you know, for me, it's going to get the number 2 slot. I do very much love this movie. There's still the nostalgia there because I saw this when I was a lot younger. It used to be my second to last favorite Scream film. However, just this last viewing, I found myself having a lot more fun than I normally do. So much so that I ended up watching it again the next day and then once more the day after that. Like, I just found myself absolutely in love with this film. You know, I could go through all the positives that I found this last reviewing. However, there's a video on the channel. You can go check it out. It wasn't too long ago. So with all of the rest of these movies being ranked, of course, the number 1 slot is going to go to the original Scream. How could it not? This movie is absolutely perfect. In my review, I gave this a solid 10 out of 10. I just rewatched it before coming over here to film the ranking thing, and yeah, this movie, I stand by that. This is a perfect film for me. And I have my own biases because, you know, this is the very first horror film that I watched from front to back. And this is the whole thing that got me hooked on horror. And, you know, so I do owe a lot to this movie. And just the way that this movie was crafted, I can't ignore the fact that this had a huge impact on horror. The slasher genre in particular, and I'm sure you're sick to death of hearing it by now, but you know, Scream really revitalized the horror genre as a whole. Really just breathed new life into a genre that was getting very tired and very stale, and that is also taken into consideration here. I mean, the reason people say it so often is because it is very much true. So that's my Scream franchise ranking. Go ahead and leave your ranking in the comments below. I do look forward to reading those. And I know some of you have already left your rankings underneath some of my videos in the comments. However, if you want to do it again, I welcome you to do it. That being said, I will see you guys on Friday. We are going to be ranking all of the Ghostface killers in the franchise, and that one should be fun. So I'm going to go ahead and get ready to start cooking on that one now. So that's just going to about do it for me. If you like the video, let me know by leaving me a like. Comment down below what you want to see on the channel next. I will do my best to accommodate. And until next time, my name is Nightshade. This has been The Night Shift, and I will see you in the next video. Stay spooky, my friends.